We're back and we're ready to wake you up right before a beautiful weekend with an info-packed webinar. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Amanda. I'll be your MC, helping out Jake and lining up your questions for him. He's going to be talking about effectively using the sheet set manager for your drawing templates in AutoCAD and FXCAD. So sheet sets, when set up correctly, can be a huge quality of life improvement for you and your team when starting a project. So it's really worth this time that you guys are taking right now to learn the ins and the outs thoroughly. You will get back all the time you put in and then some. And one controversial thing I might say is that no project is too small for this. So, first, live webinar housekeeping. We are recording. The recording will be available on our website by the end of today. At the bottom of your Zoom window, there is a Q&A button. You should open that now. So please make my job here a little easier and only put questions that you want answered in the Q&A and not in the chat. Also, you'll be able to see the answers in the Q&A that we give to everybody else's questions. So definitely keep that Q&A in view as a companion for yourself. So that's all I've got. I think it's about time for you all to hear more about this very important skill from the one and only Jake Lott.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. Welcome, everybody. We got a good little house of people here. So, this is me. While I am one of the irrigation specialists on staff, do cover a lot of usage support, in charge of a lot of content, and of course, I love CAD tools. And after the first webinar we did of this topic by Amanda, which I will be plugging here in a second, um, it got us thinking, like, why we offer these templates? Why aren't we using them? And so it got me kind of poking around and playing with it, and I was like, okay, guys, this is kind of fun. We need to kind of utilize some of these a little bit more as well. So practice what you preach, kind of a thing, right? So um, the outline today, if you have not seen Amanda's webinar on Sheet Set Manager and Land Effects, she basically talks about everything that we're going to talk about today. Um, Focuses on a couple different things, benefits, and all of the value that comes along with the sheet set manager just in general. But she also goes a little deeper into the sheet index and how it integrates with land effects. We're gonna kind of pull away from that just a little bit today, and really make it a focus on the importance of the organization of the sheet set itself, understanding some of the terminology there, but really walking through our default templates. If you guys are using the LAFX decimal foot or architectural inch or any of the metric versions, this is going to be kind of key on what we've done to kind of improve those as well. So while I will be covering a lot of the same content, it is definitely kind of geared a little bit differently. So um, please get those questions in. A little reminder, this is going to be on the simpler side. There, we know that there's all sorts of scenarios where we could apply this, and I hope what we cover really gets your guys' gears spinning as far as, okay, what if I could do this then? What about that, right? So please let us know what those are. Maybe even what we need to do in a more advanced version of this one. Um, there's too many little avenues that we could go that we're going to try to keep it simple. So, before we get going, very, very important update. If you haven't already been bugged from us before, I want to plug this one last time. This ends not just soon, but it ends today. Your photo contest submittals. Really cool prizes available. We love seeing your guys' photos done within Land Effects. You can go to landeffects.com/photo contests to get the full set of rules. But I would argue, since this is being recorded, you can always come back to this. I would argue that entering for the photo contest is going to be way cooler than what we talk about. But back to our schedule here. I want to kind of break this down, and this is going to be this topic just in general is definitely a not one size fits all scenario of what we're going to go over. So this logic that we're going to cover here is a standard. We're not going to say it is the be all end all kind of a thing, but um, hopefully we're doing some kind of structure for our working files, for our sheet set files, for just the projects that we do in general. And so if we do not have one of those standards and we're looking to modify or improve that workflow, hopefully this again gets those ideas going on how you might be able to structure. But what I'm going to show you today, we are going to be offering as like a downloadable file as a base template that you could start your projects from and kind of hit the ground running. So ideally, we're in some form of location, whether it's a server, online shared folder. If you're just a standalone guy working from his one computer, then it's on your computer in some fashion. But you've got a place that you store all of your projects that you work on, all your designs. Um, in that folder would be something to help organize when you did that project. So, what we're going to be offering here is this template year zip file, which means that you could drop this wherever you got your projects located, whether it's split out by client or what have you. This template year folder is intended to be copied and placed and renamed for that year version of stuff. From there, opening up that year folder, leaving this template year folder alone so that you can use it the following year to have a start, a fresh start. You're going to have this template projects folder, which means that you can copy that guy and rename it to the project that you got going on. Um, we're really just trying to kickstart this whole thing. And we've done a lot of topics and conversations about this in the past, so I'm not going to go too deep into how you should structure stuff. But one thing that we're trying to enforce, even here in house, is this resource for whoever's in there on how this folder structure is supposed to work. So just go ahead and we'll go through this live, but just keep that in mind here. Once you copy that file, it opens up to a slew of nested folders. Trying to keep your workflow organized is going to be the most important thing. Where we're going to be focusing, obviously, is in our sheet set spot. So working files, how you receive files from clients, all of that stuff does play a part in all of this, but our main focus is how do we organize the sheet sets themselves in a most appropriate way. So this is where we're going to be going here. Keeping in mind, obviously, some goals as you're thinking about this structure is if you are looking for that new structure, don't have one, this is somewhat of a goal to have as far as this organization goes. And then you've heard us say this several different times, I'm sure, whether it's through tech support or in other webinars. We strongly believe, and it is a standard CAD practice just out there in the real world, as you are doing your layouts, your sheets, it is really, really strongly advised that you do one DWG per sheet. And It's one of those very touchy subjects because you're saying, well, it's way faster for me to just have 20 layouts in this one working drawing, and I can just sort it that way. Um, you have a lot of different trade-offs, and we can typically find more pros on keeping it one DWG per sheet than there are cons, because you're essentially using the same amount of time but saving a lot of time down the line. So keeping this sheet set manager conversation in play, um, we can accomplish this pretty darn easy. So just wanted to, before we get fully into it, so we understand what we're talking about, where kind of a thing, just a little bit of terminology. We keep saying sheet set manager and sheet sets, and what does that mean? The sheet set manager is simply a palette to organize these drawing sheets and the data. It's just a data file. So this DST, this sheet set file, it stores that information. It's no more than that. It's not messing with any of your files. It's just essentially shortcuts to the files that you've got in other places. But it is a one-stop shop, as you'll come to find, especially if you've watched Amanda's webinar. She goes into that, and it's awesome. Um, this is the DST file. So if you've seen that, or if you've opened up a project and it asks about a DST, that's what it is. There's a drawing file that was associated to said DWG. And essentially this is just a floating file that should go along with your project. The sheet set, again, as we look in the actual sheet set manager palette here, the sheet set is that initial level of what you're looking at here. The subset is this collection, grouping, so to speak, that will allow us to create folders on the fly and store then the actual sheets per one of these sections. So this subset can be split out and organized however you want to. What you're going to see here in a little bit in our folder structure is we've kind of made a subset of folders of typical disciplines that you would generally have from a landscape architecture perspective. It could be by review status, like it says, or other types of groupings. It does not have to be any one way, but we found, we're typically doing a planting plan and details and an irrigation plan. Why not automatically let the system create those folders and put the files where they need to go without you needing to worry about that? Simplifies the process quite a bit. The sheet index, just as a clarification, again, it's covered very well in Amanda's webinar, so I'm not going to do too much on it, but it's our simplified version of the sheet set manager. And the only reason that we need this is because when you're using details, the system needs to know what sheet those details are going on. And so there is that integration that comes with the sheet set manager and the sheet index, but they are two different things, specifically for functionality. And then attributes. That's a very key part of this whole process as we get into the drawing template itself and understanding what we're turning into attributes and where they need to go and how they need to be set up is super important. If you've ever double clicked on a block or a schedule or something that was blocked that has attributes in it, I'm sure you've recognized one of these three uh, dialogues at some point. They all essentially are looking at the same data, but their functionality is slightly different when we're talking about where to make those modifications. This guy right here is the one place that we try not to edit these attributes because it's simply changing the value on the top level sort of user view here. So it's not ideal. We definitely want to try to change it from one of these other two spots, which we're gonna kind of see. And then the last one, if you guys have ever seen on a plan within a block or something, these random gray boxes around the fields, and either they're hashtags or something else, and you're wondering why in the world are they gray, this is an indication of a field. It is a special piece of text, um, or value that goes to it, M text or an attribute, um, to do something else with that drawing. So combination of these fields, which you can assign. Again, our focus is going to be these sheets. So having this whole set of fields to pick from and assign, doing those to the actual attributes. It is possible to assign a field to an M text, but doing it as an attribute does kind of keep things a little more clean, in our minds. So that's what we're going to be kind of covering. And then just sort of as like a cheat sheet, these are the spots that we actually um, are going to focus on, that we've updated in our DWTs ourselves, and then something to think about from your templates. What is there? What information is there in that template that you could assign to a field and go? So and I really do like the fact that these are different colors so that it's a clear indication, because they don't print this way, right? Like it is just a preview thing. But it is very clear to know how you're set up if you have it this way. But that's a me preference thing, I guess. So, anyways, before I fully get over to it, Amanda, are there any specific questions we need to handle?
Well, there was one comment that I thought was really pertinent to what you were just mentioning about the fields and that gray background. Marcy mentioned that the gray background on fields is sometimes not turned on. There is an on-off AutoCAD command.
Oh,
And that on-off AutoCAD command is a field display system variable. So when set to 0, the field gray background color will not show. When set to 1, it will show. And
that is
but like
awesome.
you said, I really do actually prefer it to be set to on and showing so that I'm aware of what is a field and what is just a regular filled in attribute.
Yeah, awesome, awesome pointer there. Thank you, Marcy. And I think that really goes to this next point. And I don't want to jump ahead, but I'm gonna jump ahead. The template that you use should be set up in a way that houses all of these default standards, right? So, um, if you're sitting there going, "Oh man, I have to turn that on every time," that's something that you should probably look at your drawing template file and seeing how it's set up so that you don't have to do it the following time. That goes with our LT scales, our PSLT scales, and some of those system variables that we want standard when we start a new project. So add that one to the list. Good thing ours is already set that way, but that's awesome. So gonna jump over to the actual folder here just for a hot second and see if we can't kind of go through the process of what we would generally do. So um, there is a README file in here, and I'm gonna try not to make this too boring, and go over every single point, but really glossing through this. This README file is there for a reason. It does line out exactly what you should be doing, how you should be doing it, for the steps to make it um, a successful, you know, version of what we're doing here. So this essentially says, hey, you need to copy this year folder, paste it into that same location, rename it to the proper year, and then go into there and um, copy that project name for your new project. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of back out. I'm going to copy this guy. I'm going to paste that guy. I'm going to call it 2025. And obviously, if you've already got a 25 folder and you got your whole structure set up and you're just wanting to like use the guts of this thing, then go for it. Copy this guy into there as your default uh, project starting point kind of a thing. So I'm going to go ahead and take that guy and do the same thing. And we'll go sheet set simplified. Oh, wait, manager, sheet set manager. That's what I called it, right? So that's my new project that I'm working for. So it says, okay, then open that file and go into the working drawings. And again, these other folders are just for your benefit if you so choose to use it. I really like to utilize these for anything working with the clients. And then we go into here. Obviously, we're going to be focusing on our CAD stuff. Ooh, another README file, right? This one's a little more intense. It talks about how you should do certain things by opening the sheet set folder and renaming the DST file that's already there. Okay, so we're starting to kind of walk through, like we're there to hold your hand and be there with you through this whole thing. Um, this has already got all these really cool folders set up for this, specifically in this sheet sets folder. Um, we felt like, all of these deserve their own place. We could just drop all of the sheets into a single location and then sort through them. That's fine because maybe we name them, but why not keep them exactly what they are, nice and tight? So we're going to go ahead and we are going to rename this to sheet set manager simplified. Okay. Reason I'm doing that is because this DST file that's already created, and we're starting from a template version of this. Amanda's webinar goes through how to create a sheet set file from scratch, and we'll kind of get there and show you what this is. But this is already kind of geared up, ready to go to tie into all of this stuff. So um, once it's renamed, and actually I'm gonna copy that name. I'm gonna double click it. Double clicking it should automatically just open up AutoCAD. Even if I didn't have AutoCAD open, it should open up AutoCAD and open up the sheet set manager. If you were in a completely blank file and you didn't have it open, you could type SSM. We'll just go ahead and do that, SSM, and it'll open up that sheet set manager automatically and you could browse for it. But since we opened that DST file, it automatically opened us up to this sheet set manager. So now you can see that we're still, even though we renamed that outside folder or outside file to this, the sheet set properties still is assuming this is this project sheet template. So selecting that sheet set, right click, go to properties, and right here is our project name, okay, for this sheet set name. And we'll see where that kind of pulls in a second, but essentially this is for this client, right? This is that project. So in here, you'll notice that we actually have a couple other settings. I'm going to skip over a few of these, but when creating sheets and stuff, yes, we want to prompt for a template. But we also have these custom properties that we've added. And so to tie these to our DWT, we had created these custom ones. In the sheet set, in properties, you have this ability to edit your custom properties. So you can start adding different things that need to be tied to that title block or those attributes that you want changed. So just, keep in mind that as you're going through the field options, there is the ability to set custom properties. So if we were to add a new one, you can actually set custom properties or custom fields that apply to the entire sheet set or to a specific sheet, that it looks at the sheet that it's on to fill it out. So you'll notice that all of these items we want carried across the board to the entire sheet set. Everything's consistent no matter what sheet we create. They are going to get the same information. If any one of these needed to be different on a specific sheet, we would make one that said sheet instead. So we have a sheet total, which is the total of the entire sheet set, and we have a sheet count, which is going to focus on the sheet that it's on. So that's how we've kind of integrated some of those that'll basically tie to some of these other pieces of information. So we'll go ahead and say okay to this. Obviously, we can put a description that matches this project as well. But now I have this guy right here ready to go. So um, before I move on to anything else, Amanda, is there anything that we need to clarify?
I think we've got everything here. There's some questions that I think might be good to address maybe later on. So you can keep
Cool.
going.
Sweet. All right. So that from a folder perspective kind of walks us through this template. We're basically ready to go. We've renamed our DST file. It's tied or it's set up and geared up, ready to go for us to actually start doing work. You'll notice that in any one of these folders, they are all empty. And this is just basically a shell ready for all of the stuff that we're going to kind of focus on here in the future. Um, I know that there are different ways that we're working. Kind of two main ones, right? We have really small projects. Maybe I'm a sole practitioner that just does a very simple plan, and it's a single layout, and I just do it everything in that one drawing. The working drawing is the deal. Um, or I'm working on huge projects and I've got multiple sheets for multiple disciplines, and there's multiple layouts for different breakout areas, and it's a lot more complicated. This this concept, this workflow that we're going to do, still applies just the same. As we get into creating sheets here in a second, I want you to keep in mind that the point of us adding these files to these subsets, these sheets to these subsets here, is to harness the layout itself. We're not really looking to house all of the working drawings because we're not using them for the working drawings per se. We're using them for their layout specifically. A side effect of doing pulling a layout in that your working drawing is in is obviously that working drawing is now uh, able to be accessed through this. I should point out we're keeping it simple from the sheet list side of things. There are several different other uh, functions of the sheet set manager we're not getting into, from views to model views, that could further that exploration of your workflows, but we're definitely keeping it specifically for our sheet lists for now. So um, we're going to let's just go ahead and say, you know what, I've got some grading layouts that I've got to put together, right? If you select on one of these subsets, and I should say, um, if you need to make a new subset, maybe you have a different discipline that you want to do or a different setup, it's as simple as right clicking on the sheet set itself and saying new subset. This new subset is going to allow us to um, put something in. Let's do drainage as a category. This should say yes so that we can have the system automatically create the folder for us in the appropriate place. Again, the sheet set itself is automatically logging where all of this stuff goes. And by us following that folder structure and making a new spot and opening up that new DST, it has automatically put us into the right location for this folder to be created. I also want to prompt for a template. I want these both to say yes, and we'll see why in a second. So there's my drainage. If I were to go back over to this, my working drawing section and in sheet sets, you can see that it has automatically created the folder for me, preparatory for those sheets to be set. Okay. So now if you select a subset and you right click, you can say new sheet. Okay. And again, keep in mind we are focusing on starting from scratch here. There are absolutely ways, and Amanda actually shows how to integrate existing layouts into these different subsets, but we're gonna start from scratch so we see the power of what we've already got going on. Um, and actually, you know what? Before I do that, I did want to edit my sheet set. I should, let's fill this stuff out really quick. Here, we gave it a name, but we didn't give it a client name and stuff like that. So client name is our sheet set manager simplified client. And actually, let's just say it's sheet set manager. He's our client. Project description, I don't know how to spell simplifying the sheet set. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this. So we've kind of pre-built these as a placeholder so you know kind of what you're filling out for these different fields here. So I'm selectively taking those out, leaving the commas where they need to be and putting something in there. And this can change. It more than likely will change if you don't know exactly what your total sheets are going to be. So this can be modified after the fact, or we can just assume, you know what, maybe there's going to be 5 sheets total in this. So all of that is automatically saved into it, and I just regened this model, this DWT, and it automatically filled in those fields appropriately because it knew where to look. So we'll get into that in a second, but we're going to go ahead then. Now that I've got my information about this deal, let's make a new sheet. It's going to ask for a template. So I'm going to browse. Again, depending on how you have your stuff set up or what it is, maybe it's a unique template that you don't have there, just browse for it. But I'm going to use our decimal foot DWT. It recognizes the layouts in it. Again, that's sort of the cleaning up that we've done. You know, we've always offered 3 different sizes typically so that it's an easy template to use and pull from. So any one of these is set up with those fields and attributes. But I'm going to grab a 24 by 36. And now I get to say, okay, what's the sheet number? So I can say this is the grading plan. again, this isn't this title can be consistent because our numbers are going to change, and this is what it pertains to if we have multiple layouts of a grading plan that we need to do. But this isn't our working drawing per se. We're focused on the layout. This file is getting created for the layout specifically. You can see that it's automatically going to put us into the appropriate spot. You saw that when I created that drainage subset, it made that path. But since I created a sheet on the grading subset, it's automatically going to path it and place this location or place this file in that location. I'm going to open this drawing automatically. So now I have a new file already created with this layout with all of my information already filled out. I did not have to touch a dang thing. And that's the coolest part. And I know that was the part where Amanda got excited in her webinar too. It's like, oh, wow, I don't have to set that up anymore because it's already created for that. So let's go back over and look in grading and see that it put the file in the right folder for us automatically. So um, now it's a matter of, okay, well, I've got a layout, but how is that any easier than me just making my layout in my grading plan, right? Because I might need to, I've got to set it up now. I've got to go into my XRefs and I've got to attach the file here and I got to figure out where I put it. And I got to remember where where I saved my example files. Um, so I've still got to do the whole, you know what, I've already had this set up, so why don't I just use that kind of a thing? But I can promise you that setting it up just the one time, we'll go ahead and grab that really quick. Grading working plan. So there it is. So it looks like I've got to lay this out. I've got my sheets already kind of pre-built for how much I'm going to have to do layouts for. It's a very, very simple workflow now. So now I can come in here and I can kind of do a zoom window to this guy just so we get him kind of centered. I'll set up my plot scale appropriately. And now if I look in here, I've got my scale that automatically links it up. Okay. Um, Now I got to make the other sheet, right? So I just come up here, I say new sheet. I can base it off of this template again, grab another sheet size. We'll go landscape site 02. We'll do grading plan again. And you know what? As far as numbers go, obviously, it's totally up to you as the designer if you have the freedom to do that. Sometimes the numbering system needs to fall in line with a specific um, code structure of L for landscape and site and whatever the page number is, or I've worked with people who the 500 numbers were the irrigation plan and the 700s were the planting plan and the 0 hundreds were the details, so it's just a numbering system based on what you need, but do 1, 2, 3, 4 if that gets you by. So now we got this guy. Well, now we got to go through the whole setup again, and um, I think Amanda can can attest to defending this. It's as simple as taking this guy, copying its base point, and pasting it, and moving on with with everything. It's that simple. We're not focused on the workspace here. We're simply focusing on making sure that we have um, the proper stuff here. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on the matter, Amanda. Um,
No, I just totally agree. I know it can be really scary thinking, oh, it's going to be so much work. I got to set up all those XREFs in every one of these individual drawings. And it's like, no, no, you really don't. It's just as fast.
yeah,
There's a few ways to pull it off, and this is one.
yep. And we're again, there are several ways to skin a cat, and we are open to any other workflows from a simplicity standpoint. Um, File size standpoint, safety standpoint. I mean, the list goes on and on from a files crashing and airing out to losing all of your layouts to the file being just super slow because everything's in one drawing. Um, this gives you the ability now, even because you're working through here, even though we are now going, you know what, I've got now two DWGs. I'm going to have 10 DWGs in for just the layout. That's crazy, right? But it's not that big of a deal, especially if
Hmm.
I go ahead and I save these two plans, um, even in model space. Let's just save those out. Let's close those guys down. You know, we're used to working in tabs, whether it's the project up here or in the layout tabs down here. But now that I have this, I literally can just open up that plan and it opens it up to that layout. Everything is tied specifically to a given thing. And, you know, worst comes to worst, and you are setting your layouts in one file and you bring it into here, you still have that management system that you can do um, as needed. But it just brings so much more flexibility to where somebody else can be working on one of these layouts instead of, oh, sorry, he's got that whole file open and I can't do anything in it, right? Like there's so many more benefits to it just in general. But, and making changes, right? Like, okay, well, shoot, I happen to misspell the client's name or something and I needed to or fix the address on something and I needed to make that change, right? That's automatically going to, as you switch over or regen that plan or open it up, it's going to automatically fix itself across the board. There's just so many cool things about managing things through this sheet set manager here for that purpose. So once we have our different files in here, we can then make those changes if we need to rename and renumber something. Maybe you're right. Maybe this was way wrong and I needed to just do this. And I can say next and go to the next one and fix it and okay and regen. And it automatically fixes all of your stuff, right? So it's completely tied together. Changes are very painless, and then you can then go into each layout's uh, properties there. And this is the second sheet. Regen, regen. Oh, do I need to save that? I'm not on the right one. I should go to the right plan. Um, Now I have this auto incrementing uh, capabilities for this right here. So um, let's see here. What do we need to do? Are there any questions about any of that process? Are we good?
Let's see. There were a few questions coming in. Great questions by everybody, by the way, really clearing up a lot of things. Um, You know what? Now's a good time to kind of go through one of Valerie's questions. Valerie was curious about us saying how splitting the layouts into individual files was a benefit and asked for more examples so that she could understand why. And I totally get that. I know you've been kind of in inputting snippets of your of the benefits throughout everything you've been saying for the last 45 minutes. But just to kind of solidify that, I wanted to say that like Jake and I are trying to pass along to all of you. We're landscape architects and as well. Basically, the benefits of this that we didn't see when we were not working here directly at Land Effects, and that we now have this ability to see it happen across 2,000 offices. So the amount of times that we've seen corruption basically decimate projects, and which is what can happen. Corruption's easier to build up in a drawing with multiple layouts, and then when it does, you have to redraw all of those layouts, as opposed to if all of your layouts and your working drawings are in separate files. They're easier to contain the infections to only some of them. Like you catch the problem before it gets too bad across all of them. And that means less work to clean up. And you only have to redo the sheets that got hit really bad, which means maybe you have to redo one sheet instead of every sheet in your entire drawing package. And then the other biggest one I've personally experienced was computer performance, that every layout in a single drawing slows that drawing down exponentially. So adding the 10th layout is way more slowdown than adding the second. And I've actually seen that happen. And like you just sit there and you're like, ah, my computer's slow. I need a new computer. I need the most souped up model I could possibly need. And it's like, no, it's not. It's just the drawing, the organization practice that is causing CAD to just take up so much of your computer performance. I know line type scale was another reason, like we're kind of getting down, but there's so many benefits. Did you have any other thoughts?
No, I think you hit it all. There's just there's just too many simple reasons why you wouldn't uh, you wouldn't just take the time at the first. And you know, we kind of touched on this yesterday when Amanda and I were talking, but um, as simple as a single working drawing where you just need to crank something out, use the sheet set manager for that, right? Like just load in that layout and harness the abilities to make those changes, because ideally your title block will be on that file regardless, right? Like you can bring in um, stuff like that. So I was going to try something real quick. I was just
Sure.
copying some of these deals to like argue against. Okay, so I gotta create every single one of these. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna just copy that existing plan that has that XREF, in it, and we'll make these guys here. So I'm literally making copies of the DWG instead, um, to be able to come into grading and import a layout as a sheet and browse for that drawing, right? So we'll go to our, uh, where's my office, my fake office folder location. We'll come into this project, and I know there's a lot of folders and deep dive into some of these things, but I can't tell you how important that organization is. Let's just see if I take those guys and it recognized the layouts that are already there. I'm going to import them in, and I can simply rename and renumber. So this is L03, and we'll get that to say grading plan. Copy him. Next, L04 and L05. So from a time perspective, I'm doing this on the fly. I don't think that that took very long to make those guys. And it is now tied to those specific ones. And the cool part, again, everything changed. Everything already did. Like, so I could literally copy those, that one setup file, and just now manage everything from here. And Marcy had a great comment about making updates in the field properties and then reprinting the sheets without even having the plans open, which goes down into the benefit of the post processing side of things, and being able to just simply go, you know what, I'm going to take my grading subset and I'm going to reprint that entire deal. So we'll go ahead and just do the grading side of things, and it's going to batch plot all of those without needing anything open. I could have done it from a completely blank drawing, opened up this sheet set and printed those files. And here is the result. Get it off of this screen over here. Right? So now we have a completely set deal with all of our stuff automatically done. And if I had to make a change and redo it, it's as simple as making those changes right from that sheet set manager. So I've been selling myself every time I get in here and just play around with it. I'm like, okay, that's really cool. So so yeah, we got a little bit more time. Is there anything? Let's see. We can definitely
Yep,
kind
I
of
am
go through some
going through
edits.
some of the questions. Amelia asked, what are those blue squares on the model space? Do you want to talk about those and why you
Ooh, what are
use
they?
those?
What blue squares?
I think those, they're
Oh,
not blue
these things.
anymore. Yeah.
um, these squares.
Yeah.
I guess we could just talk about that. That kind of sidetracks us a little bit. Those are sheet layout blocks from our discipline graphics section. Something that we made up to help lay things out if you had to break your sheet up for any particular reason. We, I think we have a webinar on it, but it's basically a dynamic block that is preset with some cool sizes of stuff, anticipating your viewport to be this size. So I just knew I got to lay this out at 1 to 10, and I got a box that in paper space, this is all that will fit in that view, and I was able to lay those out as a quick reference. That
Yeah, so it's a great way to pre-plan what
how
kinds of
many
those
sheets you're gonna
sheets
need, right?
you're going to need, depending on the scale that you want, and also see which scale you should use without actually having to make a viewport.
Yeah. Which goes into all kinds of other suggested workflows as you start projects, but I want to try to keep it focused on the sheet set
Yep.
stuff.
Yep. And we're trying to keep it focused very basic. I know Marcy's like, oh, there's also the model view tab and the sheet view tab, and we're avoiding those purposefully in order to fit in an hour today.
Yeah,
Maybe another webinar.
but that's awesome that you're doing that. Maybe Marcy, maybe you will be our guest webinar speaker on
I like the idea.
that
Yeah.
topic. Um, Hit us up afterwards. But the creation of these again, this is all kind of hammered out in Amanda's, and I didn't want to focus too much, but we do have a few minutes, so just a couple tips and tricks from a what to think about when editing title blocks and these attributes and stuff like that. Um, Key point: try to stay away from the M text fields. We obviously have, if I open up my properties here, we've got, M text as these fields, and I've got all my stuff in my typical title block that I need to create. key thing is that when you make these attributes, attributes need to be in a block for it to be recognized for the sheet set manager and for the sheet index. So make sure that those attributes do end up in a block, whether you feel like you want to keep your line work all just free floating in your template, but all of your text that you're ready to do in a block, or just simply make your whole title block a block with those attributes in it. That's key. Um, as you're working through stuff, especially this kind of stuff, this is what I ran into. So I'm just trying to share this information is well, these are two different entries. I want to modify these independently, and they can't be a single M text field, or that, especially when you turn it into an attribute. But M text, you can simply explode. It does turn it into text, but it does break them out into their own line items. So now from a I don't need to move things away and copy them and remove stuff. I can just simply explode those, get them into their own line items. If you're not familiar with the text to a trib command, that allows you to pick a piece of text. It comes in automatically with a conversion with the attribute definition dialog here, and you're going to basically fill these out. Again, based on how you set those uh, specific fields up in your sheet set manager, you would want to make sure you match those, match that so that it's at least clear for you what you're doing. So like sheet description or sheet number, if I want to do a text to a trib on that guy and say sheet new so that it works with land effects sheet index, you can say sheet number as a prompt, and then default can be something you know is not there. We now have an attribute, which again, you're going to have to make sure you justify, make sure you kind of get that to be how you want it to line out so that it feels correct when filling out. But once all of that's done, you're going to basically block your content. So we'll just make a block here. And do I have a? I do, but we'll go ahead and just call it 24 by 36. And I want 0, 0 as my deal. Oh, and say OK. And this is that attribute editor that pops up. It recognizes what these are now. I'm just going to say OK, and now we're good. The last thing that I wanted to kind of leave with this, once we start modifying this, the attributes in a block are kind of stored and saved. So if I can't just simply double click this block anymore because it brings up this attribute editor. So I do have to do a block edit to get into that specific block. But once I'm in there and I make a change, maybe I need to shift this up because it was overlapping or something, right? And I save those changes. This is not going to change no matter how much I regen the plan or anything. I could reinsert it, but also at sync is a command that syncs those attributes within a block. So now I can right click to select a specific block and say, yes, update this guy, and it will update those attributes. So any modifications to these title blocks that you're making and all of these different deals, at sync is going to be your best friend in the long run. The last one that I think I have time for is in one of these guys. I've got my scale. This is where I'm going to break my rule of don't edit that attribute in that one dialog box. Maybe we had to delete that viewport and make a new viewport for whatever reason. It got messed up. This scale guy is now disassociated. He's no longer tied to this object. And this is the most common one that would potentially break. Um, but if you go ahead and just double click and edit this scale value, you can double click the field or right click and update the field or edit the field. Um, it's going to say, hey, that field's been erased. You can say, okay. What we're going to do is we're going to take a object category. We're going to select the thing that we want, and there's this custom scale option. To use the scale name, we'll say okay, and we'll say okay. And now this guy, no matter what we do in here, if we go ahead and set him to an actual scale and regen, he's now linked back up with what he is. So, wow, that got us right. Oh man, I'm a minute off. Any other last questions?
Um, I, you know what, we're a little over, but I think this is super important.
Yeah.
What happens if somebody accidentally edits the wrong way by double clicking and overwriting the field text in one of these? How do you propose they fix that?
Ooh. So they went into here and did
Yeah, and they
sheet
just that, and
number
they clicked the double, and they just overwrote it with an actual. They got rid of that. Yeah. Um, I'd say the best way would be to actually go through the at edit method and
to
fix it
fix
that
it.
way. Yeah,
Yeah. So if they did something like this, you have this at edit command, or you could block edit and then double click on the attribute. But at edit will let you select that block and get you to this guy here. You can tell that this guy was definitely overwritten. If you edit him and insert a field, it will override, but you can basically use your skills that you learned in Amanda's. Going to sheet set, you have all of these guys here. So if they edited the sheet number, I think that one is
current
sheet.
sheet number. Did you put that as
Yeah, where is that? Current sheet.
Current, not sheet set project number further
Current
up?
sheet number.
Current
I
sheet
found
number.
it.
There it is.
That's a lot of the same. What's different about these? So if you just set it to that guy
Yep.
and you say okay, and you say okay, it automatically will pull what this layout is assigned. So it's really cool because as long as you just apply the appropriate field to it, it'll fix itself. It'll find what it was and it'll put it back.
And I believe you need to do a regen and an at sync after you do that.
Yeah, good call. Sorry, I was talking and I forgot to do that at the same time. Oh,
Should
nope.
have done it.
Um, that's fine. It was something. I think, you know what? I think I needed to actually do a block edit.
Block edit. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the one that always trips me up,
Yeah.
actually, is whether I can pull off a fix like that in here or out there.
Yeah. Sheet number, current sheet number. Okay. So it is tied. So there you go.
At sync should have done it, actually.
It should have, but let's. And this is one where it's like, okay, no, it's not. I think the insert of this title block again might fix it.
Yeah. Or closing down the file and reopening
Reopening
it.
it.
Yep.
Um,
Okay.
the other the other
Those are
thing
the,
really quick that
yeah.
I do want to stress because this could be the other fix um, is, and I'm doing my best to get these updated, and I think I did, is we do have like our default title blocks are kind of preset. Actually, I need to purge the drawing. Um, with those fields as well. So you could have this title block as a backup so that if anybody does anything to it, you have a way to call this back. kind of a thing, and place it. I do explode it because it needs to go, and then it should just sync right back up because it's a new inserted version of it, um, kind of a thing. So that is something that you might want to consider too. Is when you do make all these changes, have a backup of it so that if you need to force put a new one in, you got a good solid one to go from.
Okay, I think that's all we can cover. The last thing I want to say is that the files, the folders that Jake has been using today, we're going to try and get up for download with the recording later today. So it should be on the website right there with it.
Yeah. And any other questions you guys have, shoot them in so we know what we want to prepare. I'm planning on Marcy reaching out because it sounds like she wants to help us with the next one. All right, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.